Chair.
David Seymour.
Mr. Chair, it's nice to be here. I want to respond to some of the comments by the previous Labor member. He is correct in identifying that there is a trade-off in budget. In fact, trade-offs are inherent in budgets, and when that money is spent on housing, one of the key parameters that determines how much benefit can be provided to the citizens of New Zealand at the expense of taxpayers is the underlying cost of housing. Housing is the block in the cost structure for the government's provision of social housing. And we have to accept, and I think it was lost on the previous speaker, that there is an element of scarcity in this. The question is, how do we expand the overall amount of resource available for New Zealanders to consume? And that is why there is no point in simply deciding that a foreign buyers register, knowing who owns the homes in some nominal sense, is going to increase the overall amount of economic resource available in New Zealand to be consumed. It is fundamentally flawed to believe that that could help, as the member is trying to say. In truth, and the really dirty reality of that register is that what it seeks to do is identify the ethnicity and the nationality of the person who owns the beneficial interest in a piece of property. That is the reality of what their register, their dirty little secret, attempts to do. They don't like it, Upham, but that is the truth, and it was a disgraceful political move to make. They then say, in a related sense, that the limit in the availability of housing that we can spend on in this budget is due to so-called speculation. Well, the fact is we know that the level of speculation is inversely proportional to the elasticity of supply of housing. Mr. Chair, it all comes back, we'll come to that, Mr. Twyford, it all comes back to the amount of resource available to be spent. But as Mr. Twyford truly knows, with all his feigned outrage and anger, the real issue is the regulatory environment and the supply of buildable land. And he goes on and on. Publicity stunts. He goes on and on, trying to blame this person, that person and the other, saying that a tax will help even though it hasn't helped in any other jurisdiction, although nobody has ever built a house in order to pay more tax. What he's unable to bring himself to do is to reach across the aisle and be constructive. Because you see, people on this side of the House know that the Resource Management Act is one of the greatest constraints on the supply of housing and therefore puts pressure on this budget, Mr. Chair. People on this side of the House would like to reform it and increase that elasticity of supply to address the concerns raised by Mr. Twyford. But if he objects to 7 years, what about the previous 9? He could fix this problem if he had any magnanimity, if he had any maturity. He could reach across the aisle and say, here are a set of Resource Management Act reforms the Labor Party will support. But have we seen anything like that in this House ever? No, we have not. And the problem is that the ones that he would like to support, and he knows it, would be completely impotent and ineffectual because they are asinine. And here we have it. Policy making from the Labor Party comes down to a press release. The fact of the matter is that the kind of Resource Management Act reform that would increase the elasticity of supply of housing, that would solve the problems with registers being called for, with speculation, that would actually increase the amount of economic resource available to be allocated in this budget, means changing the fundamental principles, means changing Principle 5, changing the Principle Section 5, 6 and 7. That's what it means. It means taking a Resource Management Act that has 156 mentions of inappropriate subdivision and reducing that number. But will the Labor Party reach across the aisle and support substantial Resource Management Act reform? Because I think if they were prepared to do that, we could actually solve a big problem for all New Zealanders. Point of order, Mr. Chair. The member just said you're an idiot bringing the chair into the debate. I think that's quite inappropriate.
I didn't hear him, but the member's time's now expired.
Oh, bummer.
Ian Lees Galloway.
Well,